So at this point, you should have already completed designing your first initial website. We've walked you through those steps, and maybe you already have a website and you purchased this course so that you could learn how to do marketing. A lot of my customers ask me, Eddie, what should I do to market my site? I've spent all this money purchasing a website, or I spent all this time designing a website, and now nobody's coming to it. So in this session, we're going to talk about SEO, keywords, and how to market your website well. So let's start with keywords. So I've got my website, and the first thing that I want to do is make sure that whenever I've created the titles for my posts, that I'm telling a story, and that when people search for my site, that they can know how to find it. I have a client here in Denton that has a website called trexco.biz. And I was like, when they told me the name of the domain, they'd already purchased it. And I was like, okay, what does that even mean? And it was a 1031 exchange company. So I was like, ooh, I need to Google what that is. So I started Googling 1031 exchanges, and there's a bunch of them. And so what you want to do is you want to help narrow down the search for your users. So I live in Denton, and so if I'm going to be looking for 1031 exchange, I might type into Google 1031 exchange Denton, Texas. And whenever you do that now, trexco.biz will come up because we created a number of blog posts that had those titles 1031 exchange Denton, Texas in them. And so I'll actually go ahead and show you that. We'll just type in 1031 exchange Denton, Texas. And these, of course, are going to be your paid ads, but there's Trexco right there. And look, Trexco.biz is the first one that comes up. 1031 Exchange Company, Denton, Texas. So whenever we created this site, and I say we, whenever I created the site, I made sure that it has 1031 Exchange throughout the site. You'll see it here, 1031 Exchange process. We go down here, ready to start an exchange. But what was really important was FAQs, because FAQs allow you to put a lot of 1031 exchange and data in there over and over and over again. But also under news, we tagged a lot of these posts and categorized them with 1031 exchange. And then we made sure that we put a lot of keywords in these blog posts that had to do with the 1031 exchanges. So this says 1031 tax deferred exchange, understanding 1031 exchanges, 1031 exchange Denton, Texas. So sometimes you make things can be really specific and on the nose, but at the same time, you still want to give people content that is valuable and provides utility. And so when I say provides utility, that means whenever I provide a blog that helps somebody learn something or is really cool and interesting, they're much more likely to share it, they're going to save it, and they might come back to it. Because it wasn't just some article or something that I wrote that was talking about my product or trying to upsell my service. It was something that actually helped them out. And so I'm going to go in here to this theme and go into the plugins. And so I'll go down here to plugins, and I'm going to click on add new. And I love WordPress because there's so many options for installing cool plugins. But we're going to we'll just type in SEO. And the very first one that comes up is this Yoast SEO. And you can see that there's 5 million plus active installations. And I'm going to click install. So once it's installed, then we're going to activate it. And the cool thing is that it actually is a great tool that kind of trains you on how to create a really searchable content, and actually tells you, okay, you need to add better keywords, and you need to make your content a little less complex. So there's a lot of different things that it kind of requests you to do in order to make your content better. And I find that it's actually pretty challenging to write content that is going to be perfect, but I do what I can to make it at least better. So I'm going to go over here to my posts, and I'm going to go to all posts. And you'll notice that right over here to the right-hand side, it has these, grayed out items, and these are going to be part of the SEO plugin. So right now, I'm going to click on this whole grain bread for your breakfast. I'll click edit. And I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the page, and you'll notice right here it says Yoast SEO, focus key phrase. Well, my post title was whole grain bread for your breakfast. And so I'm going to put in here whole grain bread. That's going to be my key phrase. Now, right now it's telling me, this SEO analysis. I can drop down right here and it's going to tell me my key phrase and introduction. Your key phrase or its synonyms do not appear in the first paragraph. Make sure the topic is clear immediately. So immediately it tells me what I need to do. Something else that I do is I click on this edit snippet and I can type in this SEO title and it tells you title, page, separator, site title. So what I normally do is I type in whole grain bread. Was it for breakfast? For your breakfast. Whole grain bread for your breakfast. And then I'm going to type in Golden Gorilla Bakery. And then I'll add another one of these dividers or pipes, and then I will put Denton, Texas. And it says right here that are you trying to use multiple key phrases? So I might just take this out and put Golden Gorilla Bakery, Denton, Texas. So what it's telling me right now is that that's getting really lengthy. So I might just put Golden Gorilla Bakery and then just leave it at Denton. If you wanted to go premium, there's a way that you can pay for more money and it'll tell you, okay, do these things and change this up and add multiple phrases. But I think that it's already given you quite a bit of things to do and hoops to jump through without paying for that extra price. But if you want to, if you're working for a company or if you're trying to take it to the next level, you can definitely pay for the premium and you'll get a little bit more out of it. But as you can see here, there's a lot of already things that we need to do. Our key phrase length, the key phrase is 9 words too long. Then the key phrase density, the meta description length. No meta description has been specified. So based on whatever I've been writing for my post, I will quickly create a meta description by clicking on this edit snippet. So when I do that, it gives me this box that expands below here, and I'll just type in this, it'll say modify. So I'll just type right here. Whole grain, I will actually type in fresh baked whole grain bread for your breakfast. Find out why Golden Gorilla Bakery is one of the most popular bakeries, I can't type, in Denton, Texas. Get your fresh baked goods today. Now, as soon as that thing turns orange, that means that I've probably gone too far. So I might want to change that. Sometimes I go ahead and leave it. I'm not exactly certain how critical that is. I think it's telling you that this, when it gets to the green, that's really recommended. But I think that you're fine. Google changes things up often where, at one point it will allow you to have this many words, and then another time it'll say, oh, you can have a few more. And so then they might say, oh, well, let's go back to what it was before. So what I want to do right there is get my point across. If this is what's going to show up whenever someone searches in Google, like whenever we saw this 1031 exchange come up back here, notice how this says protect your capital gains with a 1031 exchange provided by Title Resources Exchange Company, Denton, South Lake, Flower Mound. You'll notice when we search for 1031 exchange up here, 1031 exchange Denton, Texas, and those words are actually bolded here in the meta description. So the words that you want, that you think people might be searching for, if they're searching for fresh baked bread or gluten-free bread, you want to make sure that those keywords are throughout the meta descriptions in your post. That is why the posting is so important. Sometimes people think, well, I'm going to spend $300 on ads. Well, The cool thing about organic search is the last I checked, it was 27% of search was done by organic search. And what that means is I sit down on my computer and I'm hungry for whole grain bread or baked goods or pizza, and I'm typing in, I'm immediately looking for it because I want it right now. Paid search oftentimes drives the desire. So I'm sitting here searching and I suddenly see an ad for pizza that I'm like, oh, pizza sounds good. That's what paid search does. But if it's organic search, that means somebody was sitting down and typing in and looking for it, and you didn't actually necessarily have to pay for them to find you, for your customers to find you. However, they found you because you had written 20 different blog posts that talked all about your baked goods or your pizza or your 1031 exchange. So what you've done is you've created content that is shareable, that people will talk about, and will drive traffic to your site organically so that you don't have to pay for, tons and tons of ads. Now, ads are great. I like using Facebook ads over Google ads because I can get really focused in on my audience. And I also like Instagram ads, especially if I'm using photos. But for starters, before I spend any money doing any of that, I want to make sure that I have really great content written for my site. And if you don't have that, if you can't write and you need help, then definitely go look for somebody. You can search for people on LinkedIn that do this. You can use Upwork. You can use Fiverr, especially if you're on a budget. But once again, you want to get content that is keyword rich and that is going to drive people to your site. And also, once they're there, you want to keep them there. And so a lot of times what I do is that, say that I write content for iteach.net. And so if I'm on iTeach's site and I go to the resources for teachers and I click on this teacher blog, you'll notice we have all these blog posts. And whenever I click on, let's say, how COVID-19 will change teaching and education, I've got photos in here in these blog posts. Scroll down. This was one of my favorite things I put in here in this video was how we conquered the deadly smallpox virus. So we're talking about these pandemics. We're talking about education post-COVID. And as I was doing research for this blog post, I found this cool video that talked about how they used dried granules of pus from smallpox, which sounds disgusting. And they started by blowing it up people's noses as kind of a way to vaccinate people. And then later they figured out another way. So go to iteach.net, click on that blog and read it and watch this video. It's really worth it. But down here at the bottom, I add a call to action. So what iTeach does is they do online teacher certification. So every single post at the very end, I put a call to action. You're reading through and then it says, be an essential employee, teach. And a lot of times I change out that this is an H2 heading and it's a subheading. And so I'll put in there, hey, want to become a teacher or get online teacher certified? So the purpose of every single one of these posts is really to be able to continue to add A, keywords, and B, call to actions. And so now when they click on here, apply today, it takes them to apply. So we may have people that didn't even know about online teacher certification, that were in a totally separate field but thought, hey, I'm looking for a second career. I'm wanting to change jobs. Or maybe they got laid off because of COVID or something else. They were doing some research on COVID and then they come across the site and they found iTeach and we have a customer based on this blog post. Another great thing about blog posts is that they just exist in perpetuity, just forever. It's not like, hey, I paid for this ad and then it's gone within a month and it's no longer driving traffic. It is always there and it continues to increase your ranking. So I'm going to go back here to my post. I've gone in here and I've changed my meta description. I've written this great blog post. I click update and I have this readability and SEO score. Right now it says okay and okay. And if I go down here, it's going to tell me why. It's going to tell me the things that I need to do. I'm going to drop this down. And if I start changing these things up, notice right now I have 4 good results. If I start getting to where I'm writing, if I'm writing it more simplified and I'm adding better headers and I'm adding Let's see, there's one over here that will tell you that you need to add a photo usually. Let's see, key phrase. Image alt attributes. So whenever I upload a photo, say that I'm here, this page right here, I'm going to type in image. I click on upload image. I will click here. And then for this alt text, I'm going to put whole grain bread. Well, you'll remember that this whole post is about whole grain bread. That's what I have in my meta description. And so I'm continuing to layer in those keywords. And when I click update, and it may or may not change the SEO score right away, but as you go through, you'll keep on, adding those things, and you'll start getting this thing to change down here. And then it's still, and sometimes it'll want you to have, 2 or 3. Like I said, it can be difficult and challenging to get everything to be green all the time. But the fact that it says readability okay and SEO okay, it means that I've got a good foundation. Also, when I go to my post, you'll notice that right over here, I have these 2 things for readability and SEO. So I know that all these that are gray, they have no SEO keywords at all for those posts. And so I want to make sure that I have a focus keyword or a focus description, meta description on every single post as just a minimum baseline for all of my posts. That helps my score with Google and my ranking immediately. Something else that I think is important to do is that as soon as your site is done, it's going to take a little bit while for Google to index it, and you can actually go and submit it to Google, and you can set up the Google Search Console. There's going to be a lot of other things that you can do that I'm going to put in the helpful tips and the resources on this resources page. But once it's indexed, it's been up for a couple weeks. It can take a couple weeks. Sometimes it can happen just 24 hours. But what I tell people to do is to Google your site, like Google those keywords that you've put in there and see where you rank. You might have to go 5, 6, even 10 pages deep. And once you see it, you see that I'm ranked number 300, or maybe I'm ranked number 100. Well, my goal is over time, if I'm doing SEO for a customer, is for these specific keyword phrases that I'm searching, is to continue to bump my site up. So by continuing to add posts and add different things in my site, image alt tags, headings, keywords, and even tagging my post, and I'll get to that in just one second. By doing that, it will continue to increase my site's ranking, and I can watch it over time go up. And you can even run reports through different tools like SEMrush. There's, Crazy Egg. There's a few other tools out there that you can set up that will actually help you with that. But a lot of those things cost money. So all these things that I'm sharing with you are things that you can do yourself, especially if maybe you got laid off during COVID or you're just wanting to make extra side money. You can be sitting at home on the weekends, typing out blog posts. And one of the great ways to find information and content for your blog posts is I like to look at TED Talks, YouTube videos. Of course, I just will research certain articles and pull content in. And I'm always trying to learn new things. Even doing book reviews is a great way to find content for your site. So something else that I want to mention is if I edit this post right here, I'm going to scroll down and I've got these categories. Right now my categories are bakery, healthy, news, and recipes. The great thing about categories is that if you wanted to create a page that just had recipes on it, you could create a page that just has recipes. If you wanted to create one that just has news releases, you could have journal with a bunch of subcategories on your menu, and you could have different ones, and you could tell a section of your blog that I only want to pull in these categories. So categories are great, they're powerful, but tags are another great way to drive content to your site. So I can put in here whole grain bread, click add, and then I can put baked goods, and I can put fresh gluten-free bread. The cool thing about that is if somebody was to type in fresh gluten-free bread Denton, then sometimes that exact tag will come up whenever you're in your search results in Google. And so tags are an extremely important way to add keywords to your site and drive traffic as well. So that's going to conclude this session on keywords. That's a lot of information to get you started on writing really good blog posts and just getting your keywords and stuff set in place. If you get started and you actually watch the other tutorials that are in the training videos that I'll put in here that will help you figure out how to write content and some other tools, then you'll be on your way to having people come to your site and you're not gonna have to pay a ton of money for ads.